Hey all, this is But I'll Take a Pinot Grigio, a Top Chef pairing with a special segment today from Sundi, our pop culture professor. She's with Jennifer Lee Jackson from our season 23 of Top Chef. They had a chat that I totally helped out on by sending Sundi some questions at the very last second, right when they were starting. So that's when you want to. It wasn't because I didn't want to be there. It was because I had to eat a Cuban sandwich. So shout out Lutz Country Cafe in Lutz, Florida. Enjoy the interview, everybody.
It was more last week. It's calmed down a little bit this week, but
yeah. So I'm in Georgia as well, and I do have to apologize. The Georgia pollen is just actively trying to assassinate me this week.
It's okay. I'm in Miami, and allergies started, and then now because of all the weather in like the Midwest and the Northeast, it's just been pouring down. So same.
It's brutal. So like I was just saying, I'm also in Georgia too. I'm in West Central Georgia. And so where are you guys? If I'm looking at Georgia, where are you from?
I'm from Athens.
Athens. Oh, it is cool in Athens. Yeah. Go Dogs.
Yeah. I grew up in Statham, but I went to school from 4th grade till I graduated high school in Athens. So
right on. Well,
I spent most of my time there.
Is it been a super surreal experience watching yourself back? Like, you know how weird it is to like hear your voice on a recording?
Yes, I can't stand it. And I can't, it keeps popping up on Instagram. I'm like, oh, there I am again.
It's tough. It's like a jump scare. Well, I'm Sundi Rose. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Sundi Rose, and it's so nice to meet you. And I just was going to get right into it. I won't keep you very long, but I like to write about and talk with folks who are like from my area and from the South especially. And I thought it was really interesting because of you started and you were like raised here and then you kind of went on. And do you find that sort of like the foundations of what you learned, you know, in your mom's kitchen, in your grandmother's kitchen, in your aunt's kitchen, how has that sort of translated into the way that you cook now or like the food you make now?
Well, I definitely grew up cooking with both of my grandmothers. One was from West Virginia and one was born and raised in Georgia. So still Southern cooking from both of them, but they made cornbread different. They made biscuits different. So for me, once I learned how to make both of their biscuits, I kind of like put those together to create my own biscuits. And from that, Justin and I we started a pop-up called Big Girl, which is fried chicken, biscuits, and burgers. And like the whole burger component, I mean, everybody loves a good cheeseburger, but we worked really hard to like perfect the bun. And this was like during the pandemic. But then like going back to like my childhood, I grew up working at a racetrack. My dad owned Winder Bear Speedway. So I was flipping burgers, cooking fried chicken sandwiches. So I feel like all those kind of like make that like my childhood like cooking experience like full circle. And just like that aspect.
Yeah. Well, I had a chicken biscuit for breakfast this morning, actually.
Nice. Probably my favorite thing.
What was the difference between your grandmother's biscuits? Was it like texture or how was it like how she put them in the the pan?
Both. So Nanny, that's my dad's mom, she made pretty petite biscuits that she would just use like a little juice cup. Yeah. And she'd, pop those out and put them on a tray. And then my other grandmother, who's from West Virginia, her name's Mozzie. Hers were bigger, denser, and she didn't like I don't want to say she didn't take the time to like roll them out, this whole thing, because she did, but it was more of just like, here we go, they're going on a tray.
My grandmother, who we called Mop, called those drop biscuits. She'd make drop biscuits. Yeah.
And like Mozzie never called them that, but then I was lucky enough to meet my great grandmother, and she showed me how to make them properly, what Mozzie was making, but in a different way.
Yeah. So do you think it's an advantage or a disadvantage that you're in the Carolinas, that you kind of already have that? Or is it like too much pressure, or like, is it both? How are you reacting?
When I first found out we were going to North Carolina, I got like super nervous and like kind of was like psyching myself out. I'm like, I grew up going to North Carolina on road trips, and I was like trying to figure out like, we knew we'd be based out of Charlotte, but like, where else would we go? Would we deal with a lot of seafood, this or that? So I bought Justin and I a bunch of cookbooks just like based in North Carolina, but also my aunt and uncle had been living in North Carolina for like the past 5 years. So I just kind of threw a bunch of questions at them to like ask people, like their neighbors or people that have lived there forever, like what they thought we might end up cooking. One of them was liver mush. I'm sure you've seen it on some of the trailers. So that was thrown in there. Yeah, I mean, I ended up being very excited. It was based in the South because I haven't really fully cooked Southern food, just like my style, in a very long time. So it was interesting to get on the show and it be in the South and kind of like just pushing my cooking again.
You mentioned books. So a little bit that me and my partner do is like every week he pairs what we've watched with like a cook, because he's a food expert. He really wanted to be here, but he was traveling with his mother. Yeah. And so last week his recommendation was like the Victuals book. What are some of the books that you were reading or whatever, so we can kind of pass it on? Because like sometimes folks like to hear what we're reading.
Okay. I wish I were at home. I could just like give you the whole list, but it was a lot of. I feel like I should just look up my Amazon and send or what I ordered from.
For sure.
I actually will after this if you want me to.
Yes, I would love it.
That way I don't have to take up your time trying to figure out what I picked out.
For sure. He would definitely.
Is one of my favorite cookbooks. Anytime like I need to reference something that, that I'm familiar with, but I don't, haven't cooked in a minute. And I love going back to that book.
Well, I did not realize my dad has said vittles his whole life, just like the freaking Beverly Hillbillies, right?
Yeah.
And I did not realize that that's what it was from.
How you pronounce it, yeah.
So I talked with Chef Day too. We talked about the intensity.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we talked about, and you've been in some pretty intense kitchens with some pretty intense chefs. Did that prepare you for what you were doing on Top Chef, or can you even be prepared, or is it a good representation of like who you are as a chef or as a like kitchen worker?
I'd say no, you can't really prepare for Top Chef. Like my partner Justin, he practiced, he did a lot of stuff. Honestly, that last summer we were so busy, like he would get up super early in the morning, but then we had service all day and we were working in a tourist town, and I just didn't have time, nor did I feel like practicing, to be honest. So I would just take cookbooks to the beach. But I will say what did...
It's my kind of lady.
I was like, in Northern Michigan, and we only get like 3 months, so
right.
I have to do this. But I will say, Justin and I have done a ton of pop-ups and like just even like even our New York experience. Just we've worked in so many small kitchens and had to adapt in so many different ways, and each time it's something else that you just have to work out. So I feel like in going into the show and not knowing what your quick fire is or what the challenge is or where you might be, I feel like that definitely did help. I don't know if there's any advantage for anyone. I feel like it was very much, this is what the experience you're coming in with, and it's, past that, it's a level playing field because, nobody knows what's about to be thrown at you.
We were watching the first episode too. You're talking about like being in the summer, and I felt so sorry for folks that have not been acclimated to that heat when y'all were out on the racetrack, standing with that asphalt.
Crazy.
Like, I know. Well, you just mentioned that you're in Michigan. Had you kind of like lost your acclimating sense, because it gets brutal down here, and so. Everybody was so sunburned. I just couldn't believe folks weren't falling out. When you had to come back to film in the North and South Carolina, had you kind of like lost your defenses against the heat? Did you have to reacclimate?
Yes, I think so. I've just, the extremes of the weather in Northern Michigan is, very different. But then like we've been living in Detroit, and it does get hot and it does get muggy. So But that day on the racetrack, it was just too hot. I mean,
it was brutal.
I felt like it was probably 95 degrees, plus we were on the asphalt, and it was just a lot. But they did a really good job of giving us water anytime we needed it. So I feel like that's why nobody actually passed out.
Yeah. I was so distracted with how hot it must have been. I could barely even be in it. But that's neither here nor there. That was just me asking. But so and I have never been to Detroit. I've never been that far, like north in that particular area. How does that food culture differ from either how you grew up or how you started or what kitchens you grew up in? Like, what's that food culture like, and how does it find its way into your food?
I kind of feel like Detroit is a melting pot. And I kind of feel like it's also a place where anyone can make it their own still. There's a lot of freedom to being able to just kind of make your own path. But I will say there is a lot of Southern food in Detroit because of the Great Migration and, folks coming up from the South, moving to the Midwest.
Yeah.
Also, we lived in Chicago for a long time. So I would say, like, the Midwest hospitality is, like, what really sold me. It's just, that sense of community hospitality. I really feel like it's easy to find, like, your place, and that it just reminds me of the South, like, just, what do you have? And, like, just, like, this whole, like, people caring about each other and your neighbor and, making sure people are taken care of. I think, like, that is, for both of those communities, is very much the same.
Yeah, Chef Day and I talked a little bit about how much overlap there is in like Southern food culture and Black food culture.
Yes.
And so I can imagine with you said the Great Migration, I said that they just took it with us, I guess.
Yeah.
You have to kind of settle a bit between me and my partner Jeff. So we were talking about like how you guys long time like romantic partners. Are you guys rooting for each other or against each other, or is it a little bit of both? Because I would never be able to do it. Like, there'd be no way I could compete against my wife. We would be divorced. It'd be over. It'd be like, sorry, you loser, get out. But so what is the dynamic shaped up with you guys?
Yeah, we're both very competitive, but I think we've worked alongside each other so long, and we've been co-executive chefs together for so long and ran a business together. But I think it's all the things. It's like, yes, we want to be competitive in our own way. We want to show up and, like, cook food that we aren't cooking together, but also very much supportive of each other. I mean, Justin really pushed me. Like, I was dropping the ball left and right, getting my paperwork in or like scheduling this interview or whatever to like finish the application process. He's like, please come on. He's like, he's like, I think we're going to get to do this together. So I think very much support of each other. But I will say, once we got on the show and started going through these challenges, it was a lot more emotional, like the back and forth of like, oh, I'm actually competing against my partner. And like, I don't think I don't think either one of us did fully thought like what literally competing against each other plus, 13 other people really meant until you're like in it. And then you're like, oh man, this is intense. Like, this is a lot.
Yeah. Well,
you have that added layer because your partner's there. So there's support, but it's like, oh, well, I still have to compete against you too. And I know how you cook.
Yes. Well, Jeff was in the camp. He's a much nicer person than I am generally, but he was in the camp. It's like, oh, it all goes to the same place. And we're all just sort of like, my success is your success. Well, like I said, I would have been just like,
feel that about like the money, sure. But like the actual competing, like, it's like, I don't know. I'm like, we're both still here to like show up and like for ourselves too. So
yeah, I think I'm probably more in that way. So I assume that you have watched Top Chef, that you were a fan, or you had.
Hard.
Do you have a most inspired like Top Chef contestant, chef tested from the past that you really inspired by their style or their way they played the game or whatever?
Well, I've been watching this since day one. First season, I still like my best friend from culinary school. Her and I sought out going to Harold Diedel's restaurant, the season 1 winner, and just like it. I don't know. I feel like that was what 2026 or sorry
2006. Yes,
that's what I'm trying to say.
They just had an anniversary. Like last week was like the 20th anniversary as I was Googling around. So, put it in things that make you feel a million years old.
23 seasons, but 20 years. So just crazy. And then, just the kind of food he was cooking back then, it was really interesting. And like going to his little restaurant in the Lower East Side, like back when he opened it, I think like that's really, being the first Top Chef winner, I think is super cool. But also Boudalot. I mean, back-to-back winner. I mean, come on, like this show is hard. Like I just, and I mean, he's a killer, so I'm not surprised he won back-to-back, but like this show just isn't, it's just not easy. And like, so many things get thrown at you and so many personalities and this and that. So I mean, I don't know. To me, that's impressive. I want to say a woman, but those two like stick out like in my mind.
That's okay. Well, I just he's on another competition show right now, and you can kind of see whenever he came out, the other contestants were really kind of like wide eyed and been like,
Right.
oh yeah. So you can kind of see he's a real presence in the room.
For sure.
So we watched the one last week about the sweet potatoes, and has there been a particular ingredient that you like really, really, really loved, you weren't familiar with, and you got to know it and you love it, or you really hated it, it was really hard to work with, and you were kind of like, ugh, I don't want to do it anymore?
Well, I will say my sweet potato, I had not worked with it, but I tasted it raw and it was so good. So, however the judges ate it, I'm not really convinced that how my potato ate was that, but that's fine. I'm trying to think if there was...
Because sometimes they'll be giving you guys some really kind of curveball things, and
I'm trying. I mean, the liver mush is gonna come up. I mean, that was interesting. I knew what it was. I can't say like I hated it. Or whatever. But I'm trying to. But for like things that I love. So our pantries were really, really nice when we had to like pick things, and I got to have scuppernons in season and muscadines. They were there. So whether I used them in my dish, I was snacking on them whenever they were in our pantry because I couldn't help myself. I haven't had one since I was in college in Milledgeville. So
I can hear sort of like the Midwestern and Southern accent sort of like
it
coming
goes back and forth.
Yeah, coming in and out. That's so funny because it's hitting my ear in a way. Do you have a favorite story associated with a scar that you have? Like,
and let's see. Well, the scars on my like arms aren't exciting. They're just regular burns. I can barely see them anymore, but I will say I have a very bad scar in like 2 different places on my right eye, and it kind of has to do with cooking. Justin and I, after like a really busy service, we just wanted to go get in the swimming pool, and we were staying we had just opened up Voyager. We were staying in his sister's basement, and their complex had a pool, and we could not find the key. So Justin's like, here, I'm just going to like pop you over the fence.
Famous last words right there.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Because the next day, it was, I mean, like I fell, skidded. And I mean, I had a black eye. I had to wear an eye patch in the kitchen for like weeks. I mean, it was bad. And now at first I was like, this is a horrible scar. Like, but now I've come to embrace it. I mean, it's just,
not
it's
an eye patch, so. And then, so I just have like 1 or 2, and I'll let you go. What is your favorite thing to eat? Like if you feel sick, or if you're hungover, or if you're missing home, or you're thinking about your family, like what is the thing that you like to eat that just makes you feel good?
Well, we already touched on fried chicken biscuits, so I won't say that.
I had them this morning because I was a little hungover.
I need tacos. Like I could eat tacos every day. Every place that we've moved, like I'm like, I can't stay here unless like I can find this like really good taqueria or, whatever it may be, food truck. But then past that, I think chicken broth. I just need chicken broth too. It's
really,
I feel like anytime I'm sick, and I know a lot of people say this, but again, like my best friend in culinary school, she was Jewish, and then like a lot of Justin's best friends are Jewish, so I just feel like that, like matzo ball soup, that chicken broth, like, it's just like it's so comforting to me, and it, like I'm not getting chicken and dumplings, but it's like it's close enough that it like reminds me of home and like comfort.
Yeah. Well, every culture has a version of a matzo ball soup, right? Like it just is like this.
Right. And I'm like, I don't crave chicken and dumplings because I don't know who could like have that often. So like this is like my way of getting that comfort.
And chicken and dumplings, though, if you grew up with it a certain way and you ever eat it a different way, it feels very odd. Like I can only eat it the way that my mother made it.
And I only like my nanny's way. And like other than that, I'm like, no, thank you. I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah. I mean, it's like tea, right? You can only drink it in a way. If it's off, you feel it being off for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I am so glad to get to talk to you because it's always good to like kind of connect with folks. Jeff is so sad. He is the restaurant expert. We have a podcast where like I'm the pop culture expert and he's the restaurant expert. And he has like a pickling brand and all that. And so he's probably dying. I'll probably ask all the wrong questions and all the wrong way. And so, but yeah, he's gonna love the book list, and we are definitely rooting for you. I'm always rooting for folks that have a kinship, and it's very fun. And thank you so much for chatting with me today. And I hope that you're going to go super far and we can talk again when you win.
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much.